Who wants to be the next Italian wine ambassador? Join an exclusive network of 400 Italian wine ambassadors across 48 countries. Vinitaly International Academy is coming to Chicago on October 19th to 21st, and to Almaty, Kazakhstan from November 16th to 18th. Don't miss out. Register now at vinitaly.com.
Welcome to Masterclass US Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the US market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests at the end of each episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us each week to learn more about the US market.
Hello, welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Susan DeMatei to the Italian Wine Podcast. Susan is the founder of Wineglass Marketing, a company based in the Napa Valley. Welcome to the show, Susan. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Before we dive into today's discussion around generational shifts in wine consumption, which we know is always a hot topic, Susan, tell us a little bit more about your background and how you came to start Wineglass Marketing.
Yeah, thanks. So I have a background in doing actually tech marketing. And when I moved up to the Napa Valley, just to get out of the cities, about 25 years ago, I realized how much the wine industry needed good analytics and good technical foundations, especially regarding marketing, website structure, tracking ads, social media was just starting. So I started this company to really bring some of the rigors that I had learned, with clients such like Intel and Sprint, and use some of the training that I had to help wineries. So Wineglass Marketing, we're now 12 years old, and we have about 30 or so clients. We do marketing in all areas except PR. We do a lot of digital marketing. Okay. And along the way, I was able to get my certification to be a sommelier so I could write copy a little bit better. And then I went ahead and got a degree at Napa Valley College in viticulture too. So I knew what I was talking about. So it's been a long ride and a really great time. I'm glad that I chose wine industry.
Yeah. And I think it sounds like you've brought a lot of incredible value to the industry, bringing that tech background and that more corporate business side and that intelligence to wineries. So with that background you have, Susan, today we're going to talk about the generational shift we're seeing from boomers to millennials and how this is affecting the wine market specifically. And our three key takeaways and really what we want to focus on is, number one, how has the internet fundamentally changed how consumers make decisions about what they're going to purchase? Number two, let's talk a little bit about what millennials and Gen X are looking for in the products that they buy and some of the reasons why wine might not be capturing their attention. And then finally, number three, let's talk a little bit about the good news as well and what this new generation is looking for that the wine industry can really capture on when it comes to making a connection. So, for starters, we've seen all the negative press and the headlines about younger generations not drinking wine, increasing cannabis use, neo-prohibitionist organizations not recommending any level of alcohol for safe consumption. And this is all negative for the wine industry. How do you think this is affecting wine consumption?
Well, unfortunately, the media here in the U.S. is very focused on, clicks and views. So negative sells, and that's really what's leading the headlines. The research that I have seen indicates that, well, first of all, Gen X, the generation after boomers, is incredibly cynical, right? Mm-hmm. It's my generation. We don't believe anything, So I don't think, they're really not affected that much. They wouldn't kind of believe anything you told them. But millennials, from what I'm seeing in research, is that if they're an existing wine drinker, it's not really deterring them. Millennials drink on average wine about, 2 times a week. They are able to buy higher end wines. They do tend to buy wines that are $40 and above. That you have to remember, millennials are sort of in their prime time right now of earning, right? They're in their 40s, they're in their high 30s. but they're very busy. They have full careers. They're taking care of their kids and their parents at the same time. So it has to be convenient. And I think one of the nice dovetails here is the availability for wine online has really met their needs for convenience and delivery. But they are drinking for sure, and the research again I'm seeing is not that it's really slowing them down.
So that's good news, right? We see that there is consumption despite all the negative headlines, but we also know that, like you said, there's specific considerations with these generations, the skepticism of the Gen X, your generation, and then for the millennial, I think there's not a lot the same level of brand loyalty, right? We jump around a lot. We're heavily influenced by what we're seeing online, and also convenience and how easily and quickly can we get a product. So what do you think are some of the most important considerations for consumers when they're shopping online in general? Let's start there, and then let's dive into how do we make wine more accessible online for these generations?
Yeah, even to be a little bit broader, I think to dovetail on your point, yes, millennials buy it differently. They're not going to buy like boomers or Gen X. They are going to buy because they have grown up with the internet, and they're going to make decisions a lot quicker. They buy based on things like reviews and good descriptions. So all of those things are important when you're trying to sell a product online. Think of it this way. If my father wanted to buy a car, right, he might subscribe to Car and Driver magazine 3 months before, and he would get consumer reports. My mother was really into consumer reports. They read everything. This is how boomers made decisions. Before the internet, you did all the research you could, and typical, magazines, newspapers. From kids, they were used to going and using the library and encyclopedias. There was like a reverence for doing the research, right? It showed you put in the time. It showed you made smart decisions. And it wasn't this sort of immediate demand society that we have now. So these type of consumers, when they went to wineries or when they're looking at wines, they'll read all the technical notes. They want to know the history of the vineyard. All of these things are very important to them, and they have the patience and the respect of that information. Fast forward 30 years, and we're looking at a generation that grew up with, I don't know this answer, I'm going to ask Siri, and I'm going to get it in 20 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. So there's not that patience for all of that data, right? They want the bullet points, right? And not only do they not have the patience for weeding through it, they don't need it to make a decision. Now we're perfectly comfortable buying a $3,000 couch on Amazon. We don't need to go and see where the couch is made, right? So all we need to do is we need to think like that when we're presenting our wines. What do they need to know? Are there ways that you can make the tasting notes come alive with, don't write like a sommelier, don't write like a winemaker, and please don't have your winemaker write your tasting notes. Have a marketer write your tasting notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It should be descriptive. In terms that we can understand. Nobody. I mean, how often have you eaten cassis?
Never. I can say that. Firmly, never. Yeah.
And so, maybe it's like a Wine Folly. Wine Folly does a wonderful job of explaining flavors using icons or graphs, or as far as mouthfeel or food that it goes with. Those are the things you need to think about when you're selling wine online, is how do I give consumers the most information I can possibly do.
Absolutely. And I think another key component that is influencing the decision of this younger generation when they're buying things online is influence, whether that's influenced by friends or by quote unquote influencers. So Susan, how do you think within a digital marketing strategy, a brand should be thinking about how their social media and influencer marketing can impact their online sales?
Oh, I think it's critical, because the first thing this target will do will look at their social channels, to see if they're a legit company. The fact that you have to have the basics, right? You have to have a decent wine and a decent price, right? Once you check that box, it comes down to your story, your background. Do you match the beliefs that they have? Do you fit into their lifestyle view, right? I'll give you a great
Right.
example. Blue Whale is a brand that's really blown up here on the West Coast. It's a gin, and my friends know I'm really into gin. And so when it first came out, they brought it over and said, "Oh, this is this new local botanical gin," and within again 10 seconds, we were all on our phones looking at the story. And it was like, oh, it's from Big Sur, and it's called Blue Whale because this is where the whales migrate, and they only use botanicals from this coastal area, and then they give money back to the whales. And within a minute and a half, we all knew the story. We all knew what it was about. We were all
Wow.
excited about it, and that's now when I want to treat myself, that's my gin, because it's not
And
cheap.
you learned all that information from their Instagram? Where did you go?
It was it was their website and their Instagram.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's treating, I think, in a lot of ways too. You really not only need an up-to-date and relevant and clean, concise, eye-catching website, you need to treat your Instagram like your website as well. I know myself, if I'm going to go to a restaurant or a product, I go to Instagram before I even go to their website because I'm just on Instagram. I'm using that platform so frequently.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a pretty critical piece of advice.
Our research shows that email, Google, and Facebook and Instagram, like Meta together, are the three most used categories. You can't not have Google ads going on. You just have to. You really need to have a presence and really understand the search engine marketing for your website to attract new consumers, right? And then their email is not dead. Email is not dead, and Facebook is not dead for sure. Facebook's kind of ubiquitous. You can get all sorts of. It's like television. You have certain channels for people watching the Golden Girls reruns, and then you have people watching MTV, right? So there's different programs for different types of people, and that's kind of like Facebook. Facebook has different pockets for different consumers, so it's so broad that it's kind of everybody, and you can get the beauty about Facebook is you can get extremely targeted with it for transactional. So things like search are really good at the top to attract new people. Instagram's kind of good in the middle where you're showing pictures and telling your story. And then when you really want to do some transactions, Facebook kind of comes in with some really good ROI.
So it's really combining those three as the most critical. And like you said, they're serving different chapters and different parts of the consumer journey online.
The story and everything is great, but again, what I've seen and what I've seen repeated back to me again and again when we talk to consumers is the importance of having your act together with good shipping rules, that a good fulfillment partner that works, knowing the laws and the licenses, having a good return policy that's clear, good customer service. None of this will matter if you don't seem to have your fulfillment and your shipping together.
Right.
Things like the automated emails when your package is shipped are like one of the most important things for consumers, if you can believe it. And it's really because Amazon has trained us that that Amazon owns their own fleet. And so Amazon can say, yeah, I'll ship it there in 2 days and it'll be for free. And I'm going to track you every step of the way. And you're going to see when your driver's 2 stops away from you. It's easy for Amazon to do because they own everything.
And now they're going to be delivering by drone, if you can believe it. So now you can even track your drone in the air that's coming down with your package. It's pretty wild.
Right? And it's not fair to the consumers judge everybody based on that standard, but they do.
They do. They've come to expect it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said there, Susan, is really important for listeners is before you even get to the marketing stage, make sure you've got your back end set up as seamlessly as possible.
Yeah, there's no tolerance for not having that, for sure.
Yeah. And, considering our audience is a lot of Italian wineries and Italian wine marketers, we know that this presents a whole different challenge for imported wine, right? When it comes to consumer marketing and e-commerce, because we don't have the luxury that a Napa Valley winery does of marketing DTC. So Susan, do you have any experience, or can you talk a little bit about how we can introduce imported wines to U.S. consumers through e-commerce channels?
Yeah, I think you need to have good partners. It's best to align yourself with people that already have the system set up. It's not like selling
Right.
T-shirts. You can't just spin up a Shopify site and start selling wine. America's weird, and it's considered a controlled substance, and it has to go through a lot of checkpoints. So knowing a partner that can do if one partner that can do the fulfillment and all the compliance would be amazing. And there are a few of them out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that I would look for certainly somewhere that can help you with all of these things. You can't just decide to sell wine, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Any partners that come to mind specifically?
Oh, well, there's about 3 or 4 that do fulfillment and shipping. That wine shipping is one of them. Wine Direct is one of them.
Okay.
You can work with a company like Vino Shipper, which is a good one. I don't know exactly how they would all work with imports and what you would need to do specifically for that, but those are the main ones that we use domestically that could probably work.
And in terms of the marketing channels, we talked a little bit more about Instagram and search and Facebook and how each of those channels can play into your strategy. But what are some other considerations? We talked about the content, we talked about compliance, fulfillment, shipping. Are there any other considerations we should be thinking about when we're looking at developing an e-com and DTC strategy?
Well, I think one of you actually said it earlier that you guys like to jump around. I'm assuming you're a millennial because you referred to it as you guys. But that, I think, play into the variety, because that is one of your strengths. Again, not having anything to do with age, having everything to do with growing up with the internet. The new wine consumers now, worldwide really, are used to, they grew up watching different countries. They grew up on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram watching things unfold with people around the world. So they're very comfortable with, I'm just going to try that orange wine from Georgia because I have no idea,
Yep.
what the heck, So play up the novelty of anything. Also, you don't feel the need that you have to throw a bunch of education at them. Again, they don't really need to understand, what grapes are in, Soave to love it, which is, by the way, one of my favorite wines. And
Nice.
So they don't need to understand. Italian wine's very complex. I can't pronounce 99% of your grapes, but they're delicious.
Yep.
And they work so well with the food, and play up the variety and the food. And the other thing that's very attractive to this, again, going back to the psychology of Americans today, is we're very harried.
Mm-hmm.
We're just overwhelmed with and bombarded with a whole bunch of stuff all the time. So as much relaxation as anything you can do to position your wine as fun, relaxing, social, very like hanging out with friends, try this recipe with your family. Anything you can do to kind of put your wine in that space, that headspace of just breathe, and it just tastes good. Anything there, it's going to be so much more effective than, well, let me explain to you all the wines that are from the Puglia area, and how we fit in. Like that's not going to fly.
Yeah, especially we're in an election cycle. We just had our first debate last night between Trump and Biden. I think we could all use some relaxing. So
we all needed a drink of wine after that.
For sure. But I think that is really valuable advice that I want to repeat. You don't have to hit the consumer over the head with the centuries long history of your grandparents and family and the technical details of the varietal, but really speak to, the lifestyle. Italy has such an incredibly rich culture and a lifestyle that Americans want to emulate. Like, look at spritz culture, right? I think, you see the
Yep.
success of Aperol and Campari, and what they didn't do is tell you what Aperol and Campari are made of. I don't know really what's in them, right? Who cares? But what we like about Aperol and Campari and spritz culture is it makes us feel relaxed. It makes us feel sophisticated. It makes us feel Italian, like we're embarking in that culture. And I think there's a huge opportunity for more Italian wine brands to do exactly
Agreed.
that.
And the spritzers bring up another point. This group is not tied to any kind of ceremony around wine, right? So like the French get very specific about, here's what you do with it and how you serve it and how you talk about it. And boomers love their toys of the Coravin and the different decanters and everything. All of that fussiness is not necessary, and it's not really attractive to modern consumers. So, I think again, Italian wines can really, there's a market here to come in and just be, the pleasant choice, of the thing that tastes good. You don't need to worry about. And we can see this in that one of the biggest trends going on right now is wine cocktails. And it's freaking out my winemakers that I work with, because they're working so hard on their wine, and consumers are like, let's put grapefruit juice in it.
I know. I mean, look at New York Times last month put out that the Lambrusco Spritz is the hottest drink, one of the hottest drinks of the summer, where you're taking Lambrusco and adding in Amaro and adding in fruit juice and seltzer. And yeah, like you said, Susan, that's a trend we're seeing. So
we're seeing a lot of sangria recipes. For sure.
Well, Susan, this was such a great conversation. I know I learned a lot, and I imagine that our audience did too. As we wind down, we'll do a rapid fire quiz that we do at the end of every episode. So if you can do your best to answer these questions in just a couple sentences, please. Number one, what is your number one tip for mastering the U.S. wine market?
So I'm going to just say it off my gut, which is, I think, know your partners, have partners, and know what.
Absolutely.
Realize that the U.S. is not one market at all. It's 50.
Absolutely. Yep. And you need good partners to allow you to manage those 50 markets, for sure.
And choose your markets. Like, don't try to be in the U.S. Try to be in Florida. Try to be in Florida. Try to be in New York. Like, pick somewhere. Don't try to do the whole U.S. Nobody can do that. It's
for sure
crazy.
What is something you might have told your younger professional self about working in the wine industry?
You're going to love it, but it's really, really hard, and you need to know that it's a lot to do, but it's wonderful. The appreciation that you have for, again, the lifestyle and the culture around it is really, and the people. I've never seen a market where, I don't know if it's like this in Italy, but here, wineries will help each other. And when there's fires, when there's a bad market, when we have conferences all the time where we share information and data. I just have been kind of blown away about, after coming from the tech market, going into the wine market, how it really is a rising tide, brings up all boats,
Sure.
So I would just, yeah.
Absolutely. And finally, we all travel lots in this industry. What's one of your favorite travel tips or travel hacks?
My first boss, when I used to travel, I went down to Intel all the time, told me never drink alcohol on the way down. Drink a lot of water, and it'll stop your any sort of hangover you have from the travel, kind of thing. And it does. It works if you stay super hydrated. It helps you adjust to whatever time zone you're going to be in.
Absolutely. Great advice. Well, Susan, thank you again so much for being here with us today on the podcast. How can our listeners follow along with what you're working on?
Yeah, we have a blog on our website. So it's wineglassmarketing.com. And we have a blog. It's right on our navigation there. Every 2 weeks, I write articles about either research on consumers or design trends on websites or all sorts of other things. So feel free to sign up there. There's also some links if you have a specific question. But wineglassmarketing.com is the best place to find out more information.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks again, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.